Hello, friends. My name is Doug Hanson, and I'm a volunteer with Icelandic Roots. And today I'd like to just go through a few suggestions on how to best utilize the locations or places information within the Icelandic Roots database. I'm sure most of you are familiar with the basic screens here. This is a individual entry page. And on the left, we have our menu page, which you get to after you log in to the database. So let's start with an individual entry page. And this is a particularly famous person from Iceland, author of many of the sagas, Snorri Sturluson. And let's look at his entry. If you scroll down, you have your basic demographic name and birth and death information at the top. But if you scroll down farther, you're going to see for any entry in the database that has geographic locations with that are geotagged or have geographic coordinates, you'll see this map. And this is a map within Google Maps. And so Google Maps takes the information from the database, and then it's presented on a Google Maps screen. It's called an event map. And if you explore this event map for a minute, you're going to see in this particular example, there are two entries. See, one is a birthplace, and there's a description over to the right, and two is a death place. And if you click on the place itself, it'll go to Google Maps in a different browser screen or browser window. But for now, let's stay in this particular view. You're going to see that there's a key for these are both orange, and so those are farms or locations. And if you look at the legend at the bottom, you're going to see that there are various settings for various locations, and we try to code them appropriately when we enter them in the database. Many you might see as this pink not set, which means that there are coordinates, but we have not actually set the location type. We're trying to clean those up as we go, and it's a big ongoing project. But back to the map. There's a lot of functionality built into this map that you may not have been using. For example, the default view is the satellite view, the satellite picture that you're seeing in this particular example. But if I go up to the upper left of the box and click on the map button, that's going to open a political view. So it's a traditional political view, political map rather, that has streets and rivers and counties and various geographic and political boundary type features. If you go to the lower right, you're going to see that there's a map scale. So it says 5 kilometers per this unit of distance on the map representation. And then there's a plus and a minus button. The minus button zooms out. And you can see that 5 kilometer went to 10 kilometers or 20 kilometers. And so the scale of the map is changing for each click there. You can start to see more of the entire country of Iceland in this particular case where these two farms are located. If you want to zoom in, push the plus button. Another feature that's really, really clever is you see this little person here above the plus or minus. If you're on a map that has this feature, that icon will show up, if a part of the world that has that feature mapped. But that's called Google Street View. And if you take this icon, you click on it and drag it, you're going to see these either blue dots or blue shading on some of the roads. And those are roads where Google Maps has done the street view mapping they have a vehicle with cameras. And I'm just going to click on this, put the little circle right on this particular highway near this farm. And you're going to see we go into Google Street View. And Street View is a 360-degree image taken from the road at that location. And if you with your cursor, you can click and drag and spin and look around 360 degrees at that location. And you can get a good view of the river, you can get a good view of the highway, and then what we're interested in, we're looking at the farms that are right here along this highway. And you can also zoom in and out. Same functionality exists for zooming. And then you can see the outline of the vehicle they used to film as they drove by, the camera on top of this particular car. What's also interesting is you can see now we're looking to the north because you have the red compass arrow is to the top of the page. If it's down at the bottom, it would be looking south. You can also, if you click on the arrow, you can go farther along the road and you can just advance up in whichever direction you want to go. If you want to escape out of that, just click the left arrow up in the upper left in the shaded box, and that goes back to Google Maps. Another unique feature here that most people don't know about is if you go to this upper right, you're going to see this little cross-hatched box. If you click on that, that goes to the full page view. And again, same map functionality, just gives you a much bigger image on your screen. Now we're still within Icelandic Roots, so you can go immediately back to the page we were on, but this gives you a lot of map functionality, again, that we can drag, we can click, we can zoom, we can do all the things we did on the smaller map, but in a much bigger view. To exit out of this, you just go back to the upper right, and there's this little, again, the little crosshatch thing is turned to a slightly different symbol, and you can click on that, or there's also a little bar at the top that says exit full screen. It may not show up in this recording, but if you click on the button that says exit full screen, then you can go right back to the small screen on your map page on the individual record page. Now you may notice that our two icons we had before are missing. That's because we've actually shifted location when we went to full screen. To get that back, just refresh your browser, go up, and I'm gonna hit the refresh button. And there you have it. We are now back to our default page. We can see our two farms are back, and we're back in that default satellite view. The other thing you might see linked on an individual page are media, recordings, and other things, which we'll talk a little bit more of that in a few minutes. Let's go back and look at the left side of our screen. Or one thing before we leave this screen, I wanted to show you that if you look at, like, for example, the death entry here, there's a date of 12/41. And if anything with the location field will have one of these little magnifier glass symbols. And you see as I move my cursor from the right over that symbol, it turns into a little pointer finger on a hand. And that signifies that I can click on it. And then if I have that symbol, I click on that magnifier, it's going to call up the location page entry. And you see, again, the Google Maps comes up front and center. It's got the same functionality. You can go to map view, satellite view. We can zoom in or out. Same functionality as the previous page. Again, down below that, slightly different. It's going to tell, it's not going to have the whole key, but it's going to have the particular type that's coded on this particular entry, which is a farmer location. And then it's also giving the latitude and longitude of that particular pin. So that could be useful if you're trying to assemble a list of locations to visit on a trip to Iceland, for example. Another thing for the location page is it's going to list the records, individual records for people or families that are linked to that particular place. For example, a place like births and deaths, census records, immigration, and marriage records that are linked to that particular place will be listed here. And then you can click on each one to explore that particular person. Again, I can help link families and individuals to a certain place or a particular farm. One thing of note on this page is that we have this suggest button, and if you click on suggest, that's going to call up a screen where you can put in a record of errors. So if you see a coding error or a geotagging error where it's tagged in the middle of the ocean and it's supposed to be on a farm, let us know. And if you put in your name, and it should call up with your email instead of mine, and then put in what's if it's a misspelled word or a mistagged location or some other error that is wrong on the location data on that page, then go ahead and submit that as a suggestion to Icelandic Roots, and that'll allow us to investigate and to go and correct any errors and help the database have better data integrity for everyone who uses it. All right, let's go back to the place screen. So I click on place, I'm right back to that page. Okay, so that's very useful. Now let's go and look at this left menu bar. You're probably very familiar with this, but if you didn't know, the little plus sign next to any word indicates that there's a submenu under that item. So if I click under the places field, that shows that there's a little sub-choices, a selection of other choices under that particular header of things we can choose. And I'm not going to go through all of these today, but I do want to talk about a couple of them. First of all, let's look at the Icelandic places. Icelandic places is actually a list of media that are associated with specific locations within Iceland. Now, media, most of them, like the first couple are maps. For example, here's a map showing the small thumbnail, and if you hover over it with your cursor, you get a larger thumbnail. And as you go through you'll see there's maps. This is a link to a map in this particular case. And then others are mainly photographs, for example. So let's look at a photograph. And if I scroll down, this was a real interesting photo. So this is our friend Mats has put in a lot of very wonderful, taken a lot of wonderful aerial photographs of Iceland over many, many years. And he's allowed us to post some of these. And we have well over 100 of these in the Icelandic Places media collection. And so if you click on this, you're going to see that this is a really interesting photo. And I really like the geographic features in the background of this particular farm. But if you're going to see when you do that, you're going to have the photo itself, or the media, or the image, and then there's a description, and here's the farm name, and then the Sisla, and then there's a description. Many of Mats's photos, you have his contact information, or where his website is, and the copyright information. But you're also going to have a description. And most of his also have the modern municipality listed, so you can search by the historic Sisla or also by the municipality. In the information below, typically where these dark blue fields are and the gray fields are additional data or EXIF data about that particular image. This one is difficult to read, probably not the best example, but we've got a really information about the size of the file, the size of the pixel dimensions of the image, the size of the file, the name of the file, and then there could be other things. So also very significant is typically most will have a link to the actual geographic location page. And so if you click on that link, you're going to call up, here's the farm. Again, Google Maps and all its functionality, which we already described. And then, again, birth and census information. And there's usually a link also back to that same photo. So if you come across this by going through the regular individuals page, you're going to see if there's a photo of it, and you can click on the link the same way. Okay, so let's go back to that page. There is, again, the individual farm. If I go back to the listing, there's more things you can do here with the entire list. Currently, in this example, there's 301 of these images in our database, and we're adding more all the time. But you can search them and put in a search field for a farm name or a town name in this field here on the upper left, and click search, and that will narrow down our choices to those that have that particular word in them. Another thing we can do a slideshow of all these images. We can click through the different pages of them. There's 8 pages of them. And kind of narrow down our choices. That's some places. And let's go back to our main menu here, places. Let's click on that, and it's going to expand our menu. And I want to show you all places. So in all places, again, this is another way to find the locations. And you can show the location starting with various letters of the alphabet, English as well as Icelandic letters. And we can also look at the largest locations within the database. One question you might have is USA and Canada are the tops. Is why is Iceland not listed? Well, by convention, we don't list Iceland since our database is centered around Iceland. We don't actually include the word Iceland because it's kind of self-explanatory for those that aren't listed as another country. So, for example, all of these we tend to list them by Sisla. So, if you look down here, most of these places are Icelandic Sisla. And if you look at, for example, Canada, if you click on Canada, that's going to give you a list of the provinces in alphabetical order. And you can go through and explore those. For example, if you look at Nova Scotia, it says there are 52 places within Nova Scotia. If I click on Nova Scotia, you're going to say, well, there's only 34. Well, there's 34 listings, but some of the listings, the ones in blue that have underlines, have another page of listings below them. For example, Halifax has 4 other listings within Halifax. Shelburne has 8 other listings within Shelburne. So that they're going to add up to 52. And that's it. You can also, one other thing you can do, before I forget, is you can also show the top 100. So if you go to the bottom here, you can put in whatever number, but you can kind of see where the most places are in the database. And again, these have Icelandic Sisla, have USA, Canada, other countries like Norway or Denmark, England, Russia. I mean, you can go down and look at the listing, and they're kind of in order of the number of places within that category. Again, another way to explore places. If you want to explore France, you can click on France, and there are the places that the database has listed for France. So that's it. Go and have fun exploring the locations within the database, and please, any errors you come across that you might encounter during your genealogy research, please send them to support@IcelandicRoots.com, and we'll do our best to try to improve and upgrade the database. Thank you very much.